All right, groovy grasshoppers, 10 o'clock Thursday morning. Hope everybody's doing well. Beautiful weather here, getting more midday marches in. I'm trying to change my schedule around a little bit, do a little less gym time and more walking, especially when the weather's nice. Um, Fall, I love the fall weather. The trees are changing color, the leaves are falling down. So I like getting outside better. Like being in the gym is great, and I will be getting back in the gym shortly. But it's just being outside is nicer, mentally and physically, I believe. Um, Again, I've been like it's been what, geez, 2 or 3 years now that I've been going to this gym by myself, and I think I kind of miss the whole atmosphere of having other people in there pounding iron and stuff. So, just a little break, more mental break. Um, Had a fantastic event last night. The Rangers put on this, well, MSG and the Rangers put on a great event where they get a lot of the big sponsors from Madison Square Garden together. They call them B2B, business to business, kind of meet and greet. Myself, Latrell Sprewell, and Kenny Albert, the great Kenny Albert. So Kenny kind of hosted it and they asked some questions. Kenny was funny. Like Kenny's got his book coming out. You guys should buy his a Mike for All Seasons, Kenny's book. He gave me a signed copy yesterday. I bought a copy already, so I'll give that out to somebody. Actually, maybe that should be a little contest too. We'll give away a Kenny Albert book. But he's a good guy, like a really good person. Like surprisingly, he's always like he's like an Adam Graves kind of guy when you meet him. Like he's so nice. You're thinking, oh, come on, no, you can't really be that nice. But Adam and him are both the same way. Very nice people. So it's fun event. He was doing a little trivia to give to people to win the books. He had 5 books there. And it was some people a little bit old, but that he used a lot of stuff from back when I played, like, who did I get traded for? And who did I replace as captain for a short period of time? And everybody was like, they had no clue. This was just, they were hockey fans, but it's just that they, didn't remember back that far. Kind of, I'm sitting there thinking, man, I'm old. I'm not though. I'm not. Okay. Morning, Kenny R. How are you doing? Hope you're doing well. I didn't know Kenny Albert was telling me there's a woman that's Peg that's at all kinds of Ranger events. She works for Northwell Health, does like their media stuff and everything. And she was there last night. And Ken was telling a story how, I hope he doesn't mind me telling this, but he was very open to telling it in front of her. He mentioned Northwell Health really saved his life because he was like 3 months premature at birth and was in Northwell Health Hospital. And he's flat out, he said, listen, they saved my life. I wouldn't have made it. So pretty interesting story. Great guy, good family guy too. He's very busy, obviously. And he was going out last night after the event with his wife and daughter. His daughter, I guess, had his wife and daughter. They hadn't had their birthday dinner. It was like 3 weeks after her birthday, so you could tell it was a big thing to him. Like he felt terrible that it had taken that long, but he's so busy with stuff. He wrote a book and people can read it. What a Susan, good one. Oh, nice. That would be a little dig towards old Tom, because my book has taken a long time to write. But we're getting it completed now. And we're hoping, again, I know I've said things in the past, but we're hoping, I'll say it that way, to get it done for Christmas. Deb Anderson has helped me with the book now. She's been very helpful. We're on the same page as far as how we want it to come out. So we've had several good conversations. Just it wasn't beefy enough. I didn't like reading a book like David Goggins' book, You Can't Hurt Me. He really got into a lot of talking about how he felt during certain times and everything. And I don't think we had enough of that stuff in there when I made some of the brilliant decisions I made in the past. The thought process that went into that. So yes, Susan, you're correct. Give me a hard time. I deserve that. It's been like 3 years now or something going on with this book. But it is true, like people say, it's easier to start a book than it is to finish one. And I never would have imagined that before, but it is true that especially if you continue to do new things and learn new stuff. Like I read the old version that now we're redoing and realized, man, I kind of changed. Well, I kind of have changed a lot of the ways I'm thinking. Added things to it, discipline. Like we talk about, Jim Thompson, former teammate, asked me to do the morning motivational video on Instagram at 3:53 because that was his trailer number. And how much I thought, okay, that's a great thing to do for him, but how much it's really helped me in my life as well, like another level of discipline to take it to another spot. So it's, those kinds of things I guess I didn't totally understand before, but now as I've learned more and done more things, and that's cool. I like to learn more stuff. So always good. Lorraine, you magical creature. How are you? Good to see you on Thursday morning. Okay. Here's our gripe of the day. So I'd take the Uber down the city. I'd like to take the train, but it depends how far away it is. from Central State, Grand Central, or I'd like to drive too, but again, parking's the issue down the city. So I took an Uber down. The ride down was great. No big deal. Yeah, I'm assuming that's correct. That McDavid, he's missed a couple of games. So yeah, Rangers playing well too. So we lose McDavid. I mean, the danger is you think, okay, McDavid's not in the lineup, so now we can take it easier, and really can't. That's still a good lineup, you know. Draisaitl in there, so it's still a good team. So okay, so took the Uber home from the city. Nice night last night too. It was nice that like just a crisp night, but still. So we're driving to the city with the Uber, and I put the window down in the back seat because I like that fresh air. So we get going up the West Side Highway, and all of a sudden he just randomly decides to close my window. Like there's no discussion. I know it's his car, but I'm paying, and he just decides to close the window. Doesn't say, "Sir, is it okay if I close the window?" And I said, if he'd asked to, I would have said yes, because obviously it's something that he wanted to close. But he just closed it, so not a big deal. And he was one of those drivers though that like I call him the whiplash driver. So like hammer on the gas, especially when you're in traffic. Hammer on the gas, and the red lights are right in front of you, seeing that everybody's braking, and then he slams on the brakes. He does this about 15, maybe 15 or 20 times to ride home. And sometimes I'm thinking, okay, is he awake? Are we're gonna crash? So I'm leaning over trying to see, like it's the most uncomfortable ride. And I was like, then he, and then we goes to drop me off. He says, make sure you leave me a good review. I'm not leaving you any review. And he says it again too. I didn't answer him. He says it again. I looked at his review and he had a fairly high. I think it was like 4.7 or something out of 5. I'm thinking that now I know why he gets a good review, because he's begging for it all the time. Susan's on fire today. She is on fire. The Susan Brooks. Edmonton would be better without him, right? So this is in reference, in case people don't know, that I made a comment back when I did a show with Kevin Allen that sometimes with a team, when they lose a star player, they will actually play better for a short period of time, not for an extended period of time. And because everybody else steps up and does more, because they don't let top players there. But again, after a while, you can't sustain that, or it's harder to sustain that. So Susan being on fire today, like she is, must have got a good night's sleep. She's now referring to that from the past, that statement. Yeah, you know what? Then I won't back down from that. I think they could be better tonight, but they've missed him for a couple of games. I think this isn't the first game. So the theory is, Susan, that it's like that initial. So so we go back to the 84 series against the Islanders, game 5. So we lost Barry back in game 4, and again, I don't know if we played better without Barry, but we certainly stepped it up more. Like guys like Dave Maloney and Ron Gresham, who hadn't been playing in the series, I thought did a fantastic job, like stepping in and really playing good. Like those are two veteran guys that, proud men. And I thought really played well in Barry not being there. Ultimately, we still lost, but I thought, like, I look back at that team we had. I watched, I think game 5 or a couple of those games in the series recently, and man, that was a good team we had. That could have been the best Ranger team I played on in '84, and we lost in the first round of the Islanders. But like Clark Lee said on the show, that they felt like if we had won that series, that we could have won the Stanley Cup. He thought they were that good. And again, that was the team that won, 4 Stanley Cups, went to the finals that year again, and we played them. Oh man, that was a good series. Like we should have. I mean, listen, it was. Billy Smith was always part of their team when they were winning, but he played fantastic. So did Glenn Hanlon. But we should have won the game 4 at the Garden. We had them 2-1, and that's the game we should have won. But still, it was a great series. That was like Kenny Albert last night at the event was asking one of the highlights of your career plan, and it's kind of funny to answer because I never won a cup. But playing the Islanders in some of the series that we had, some of the games we had against them, them being that dominant team at that time. Some of those games and series were highlights because the hockey was so good, and to be part of it, like again, the historic, again, they won 19 playoff series in a row. Yeah, others did. So yeah, it's funny. We were asking too about Bob. I've told a story here about Bob Nystrom knocking me out cold and how much I respect him. People get a kick out of that last night too. Like, really? Yeah. Okay. That's a little strange, but let me see. Yeah. Good morning, Tom. I keep missing you. Big day in Rangers history today in 1987. What was that? What was 1987? Hold on, let me think. So 87. Larry Malik. Oh, okay. Was that 1987? Oh, man. October 87. So I was gone by then because I got traded in 86, 87 season, right? So I was gone when Larry had that fight. That was good fighting, man. I remember watching that, and I still watch it now. It's like, because at that time, like people didn't stand there and trade punches with Dave Brown. Usually, there's a little bit more grappling, but Larry just stood back and just smoked him. And I'm like, oh, Larry, you're gonna get like you're thinking at your time, like, man, this is Dave Brown, but Mel gave it to him pretty good. It's good stuff. That was a good fight, really good. He's a mean hombre. And then they had a good one against Chris Nyland too. And Nyland was a heavyweight at that point too. I saw Knuckles. So there's a few good podcasts, right? Well, we've had, what's interesting? We had on Mick Fakota and Rich Pilon on our Full Change podcast. And Mick Fakota got asked to go on Spit and Chicklets. And he's a really good storyteller too. I told him he should do his own podcast. But we'll have him on again. I don't know if it's out yesterday. I think Rich Pilon and Mick Fakota. They're fantastic guys. They're buddies. They played together. Great. Both of them really good storytellers. And we started something new that I think will continue. Normally what we do, we get on and I don't go live. We chat a little bit first. But we went live, well, pretty much right away because they were getting into like telling stories and stuff before we really started the show. So Tom Smith, the producer, said, Tom, hit the play button. So we did, and it was pretty funny. Like, because you know what, it's interesting. We get on, especially guys like Dave So, for example. So we had talked in a while, and we were telling old stories. It was a couple of days before we were going to do the show, and we had talked for a while, and we were crying, laughing on the phone, talking about some of these stories. And I'm going to try to not do that anymore because it kind of to then try to recreate the story that we already told. Kind of takes a little bit of the fun away from it. So instead, just get on and we're gonna hit the play button right away and chat a little bit. And if nothing's going on, then we'll start the normal show. Tom do his introduction, but it was those guys are good, really good. They're fun guys, great stories. They always do stories, and and the fact that they're buddies and played together too. It's especially that. His podcast is really good. Chris Nyland, Bare Knuckles, right? That's what it's called. Yeah, he's good. He's got a great personality too. Get some good guests on, people like, guys that he fought, like Dave Brown, for example, that they've had a lot of fights, but then they come on together. So it's always interesting seeing that dynamic, right? Two guys that have been kind of beat the what out of each other. And now buddies doing the podcast together. Let me see here. If I had a podcast, I could tell stories for hours. You should have a podcast, that Danny. Anybody can have a podcast. You should do it. We'll get you on here. Brian Boyle. Yeah, Brian Boyle would be a good guest. Play with the Rangers and Devils. And yeah. You know what? We played the Rangers and Islanders had the alumni charity game last year, and he was there. And we were trying to get him set up, and I think he wants to do it. He's a busy man though. He was saying like he's got young kids, so now that he's home, not playing anymore. A lot of it's fun. Like in the mornings, he does a lot to get his kids to school and everything. And then he does, I think he's still doing quite a bit of stuff with the NHL Network as well. So yeah, great guy. We hit it off pretty good. You're right. His story is fantastic. The battling cancer. And I really thought I admired him as a player. When he first came in, I kind of thought, you need to tough. He was a big man and need to play a bigger game. And he did. He wasn't necessarily a fighter, but he was, he was a character guy, a big role, yeah. And that coming back from cancer like that too, that's and the way he handled it too, like he seemed to be such a gentleman about it. Just a real class guy. Mario Lemieux was the same way. Actually, in some ways, you could almost argue that it made them better players because I think their outlook on life and everything. Once you battle cancer and go through all that, I think, I can do anything kind of mentality. Oh, Raw Knuckles, thanks, Kenny. Raw Knuckles for Mr. Chris Nyland. So yeah, there's we'll see where it goes, but we're hoping to get on Spit and Chicklets. Those guys are good, Spit and Chicklets. I really hadn't paid attention to them that much until we started doing our podcast, so I just see what they do, and I really give and apparently they're really good guys too. Mick Fakota was saying really humble guys and everything, but Biz Nasty there, I admire him. Like he even laughs about himself, like he's basically a fourth or fifth line player. But look what he's done with his life after. I don't know if he had a whole plan to it or whatever. But even when he was playing, he was really into Twitter and all that. And I think he had 1 million followers even before he retired from playing. So don't know if he intentionally did that or just had the personality for it. But obviously they've done a good job. The other one that's a good one too is Terry Ryan, Tales with TR. A lot of people may not remember him as much. He was a high draft pick of the Montreal Canadiens. Yes. And tough kid, hurt his ankle. He's on a TV show in Canada now called Shoresy. So he's another guy that after his career has probably done, he has done more with his career after playing. He was funny. Let me say, amazing how Ryan was a brace of careers or Nicky. Yeah. Yeah, those heavyweight guys usually are pretty good buddies after everybody except the Islander guy or Devils. Excuse me, Flyers. Um, yeah. Oh, Paul Holmgren's a good guy too, but Ben Wilson, you see some of the stuff that he did. The biggest challenge would be to have Sayers, I guess, perhaps. Yep, good point. You're very right. We can't judge him now. People do change, but I saw Brian Boucher. He was on Spit and Chicklets, and he was talking about Terry Ryan. They played together in Tri Cities, and Terry Ryan was very great sense of humor. Still has a great sense of humor. He would drive around. He had the crash test dummy mask, and he would drive around in his car. And he would people pull up beside him and he'd turn his head really slowly and looking at him with the crash, just like he was a crash test dummy. I don't think he had the gloves right to it. He definitely had the mask. And apparently it's pretty funny. Obviously, you saw some guy sit beside you and look like a crash test dummy. But good sense of humor. Good sense of humor. I'll learn how to talk. Susan Brooks, what do you have to say, you magical creature? He was calmed down on TNT. I think Henry had something to do with that. Yeah, but do we want him to calm down? I like the I like the attitude of business got having some fun. There's a night where they were doing they had the sticks out in that artificial rink here, and Tockett was there, and I think I'm correct that Biz hit him in the testicles with the stick, just a little tap, but it's just out of the ordinary. It's not. I just thought it was pretty funny. There's one time too. I think he tried to break a stick over his leg. It did break it. He hurt himself. I'm sure he embellished it a little bit, but it was pretty funny the way he couldn't break it, and then he was limping around. So, let me see. Do you ever have a coach that you hated and then warmed up to? I think it's more the other way around. Like when Ted Sater first came in, I thought, okay, he's good. I mean, listen, I had Herb Brooks I've talked about him so much. Him and I got along great and had a great relationship personally. Well, I don't know if it's personal as much more from a hockey standpoint. He did so much for my career. So when they fired him, Ted came in after. So, but Herb was gone. Nothing I could do about that. And Ted was fine, and he played me a lot. I remember Jack Birch, the assistant coach, was saying, I can't remember his quote in some paper someplace. Listen, Laidlaw is simply one of the best defensive defensemen in the game. So they really thought highly of me. It was more the other way. The relationship kind of went down the tubes. More because, again, I've talked before about hurting my back and just didn't handle it well at all. Just was the emotional part of it. I couldn't figure out why I was acting the way I was acting, because again, I'd been that guy that played all the time. And all of a sudden I can't play because of a back. And when you're walking around and you've got a bad back, a lot of times people are looking at you, what's wrong with you? So you get that feeling, whether it's deserved or not, that people are looking at you, that you're, kind of pulling the chute, which, especially for anybody, but for a player like me that played all the time, that was a tough pill to swallow. I'm having a problem lately with the screen. I've cleaned out my computer, but the screen has been freezing on me. So, yeah, Barry Melrose. He's got Parkinson's. Is that what it is? I didn't deal with him as much. So I had retired before he went into LA. So I was in the agent business at the time dealing with him. I'm going to unfreeze the screen here, everybody. So bear with me. Bear with me. Why does it bear with me? You have the right to bear arms. USA. All right. Screen is better. Okay. Tom Webster. Hold on, let me get all these here. Howard, Jack Birch, and Red Shakes. Red Shakes was fantastic. I was almost surprised. To me, he just didn't fit in with Ted Sater's way. I thought he was really an intelligent coach, tactically, and the emotional side of it too. Really knowing how to. But I'll never forget. We were playing a game in Montreal, and it was right in front of our bench. Montreal, I can't remember. Montreal forward was carrying the puck, so it was 1-on-1 with me. And I was at that time, I was really on top of my game, and I'd really played the 1-on-1 like really well. So I got him pinned to the boards, right against the boards, right at the blue line. So if he tried to make a move, other people were going to go offside. And he knew I built a reputation that I was going to hit all the time. And I was forcing him right in where he had no place to go. And I'll never forget, Rich Higgs was on the bench, and he was like up on the bench, and I was in the process of doing this. He goes, "That's unbelievable! You're doing it perfectly." It was just one of those times where you really like, somebody again, being that defensive player, a lot of times people don't recognize when you've done something properly. But he was really into that kind of stuff, like the details of the game. I'll never forget another time I was pinned against the boards, and I had the puck, but I had an option to pass out in the middle of the ice. I didn't take it because I thought it gets picked off and we're in trouble. So I made the decision to go behind the net. And the same thing, he came to the bench, and it's just a little play, but I came to the bench, and he came down to me. Great decision making there, great decision. And so I really thought he was good that way. Jack Birch started off being good. I think I told a story where he was a good guy. But again, when things started to sour with me, the coaching staff, he was part of that. I don't think Reg got into that as much with me. He was a big, we got along great. But Jack, there's a time so back then you get meal money. I think it was like $50 or $60 a day, and then you would have a pregame meal. They would deduct a certain amount of money out of everybody's $50 for the pregame meal. But it's all for the players. So, and it wasn't, I was really more being joking around. But Jack Birch now comes in and starts eating the food that we're paying for. He's a coach. It's not a huge deal. It's kind of inappropriate. So I made some comment to him like, I hope you're enjoying that lunch we're buying you. Well, he ran back and told Teddy Sater that. And of course, then I had to have another meeting with Teddy because I was picking on Jack. So that's kind of the way it was going. Tom Webster. Again, I attribute more, again, my situation, because when Tom Webster, so he coached with the Rangers a little bit before I got traded, right? Yeah, they'd fired Sater, and then Jack was here for a short period of time. But again, I was going, to be honest with you, it was more me. I was going through that bad period with my back, and again, not knowing how to handle it properly, physically or emotionally. So I wasn't, I wasn't the same person I'd been. And I think Tom Webster knew from people in the organization how I had been, what part of the team I'd been. So now he gets there, and I'm not acting that same way. And then the same thing was in LA. When I first got there, Mike Murphy was coaching, got along great with him. Robbie Ftorek and I were great. And then I think after Robbie, then Tom Webster came in. And again, same thing. My back had gotten worse again. And I just, not even sitting and talking to them and saying like, okay, here's what's going on. Because to be honest with you, I didn't know what was going on. I was just always able to fight through injuries and stuff. And all of a sudden, this has bothered me. So Rick Wilson was great. And Cap Rader was there as well. They were two great coaches. Like good people too. Like I've told before, how Rick Wilson would, always skate around with me before practice, and he'd gone through the back issue himself. And he says, "Tom, I know what you're thinking. You've got to change things." And I was, nope, because that's, and again, I credit that with the reason I was able to play, because I was never changing anything. I was never getting on the trainer's table. But looking back, I certainly should have listened to to Rick Wilson. Let's see here. Solid effort by Quick as Rangers do. I guess this shows that training camp is different for veterans. Yeah. I mean, it's like, you can play. Like when you're a younger player, you still kind of prove to yourself and to others that you can play, right? You're getting ready to play. But as you get older, that training camp really doesn't mean anything. It's, okay, am I getting myself ready to play for the regular season? That's amazing guys I hated have turned out to be good podcasts. Dave Brown, Brad Prop, Jay Miller. Yeah. Jay Miller's a funny guy too, man. He's good. Really good. Yeah. And Mick Vukota, we really didn't know each other that well. But his personality is unbelievable. He's got a great storyteller. And Richie Peelan's the same way. We should do a show sometime. We keep some of the stories that are being told that we can't really tell. I'm thinking maybe we should tell some of these stories, because and again, the way the guys tell the stories too, especially when you get two guys together like Peelan and Vukota, and they're telling some of these stories, and they're just dying laughing because, same thing. They haven't seen each other in a while. They're recalling these old stories and how crazy we were doing some of the stuff we've done. Like we had Soak on, and we talked about putting all the food on the kitchen floor and then running down the hallway and diving head first in the kitchen floor. Just, because now you're like, he's had two daughters. I've had two sons, in their 60s. And then you think back about, okay, that's what we did. So it was pretty funny. Yeah, and that was hard on Tom Webster too. Where was that? Webster had the ear issues. The ear issues Phil had to take. Yeah, and that was hard on him too, because he barely coached with the Rangers. He came in, he couldn't fly. He was getting sick all the time, and probably we weren't as fair with him either. We were kind of like, what? Funny, we've lost him too. He's no longer, so I don't want to. As a person, he was fine. He'd been a former player, but I think the combination of me with my back, so my relationship with him, and me with my back and him with his ear issues, just I think it was frustrating for both of us, to be honest. Yeah. Let me see. Um, I don't wish because again I had that great relationship with her. I do look back and think, well, geez, maybe my career would have been different because he was allowing me to be more of an offensive player. Now, listen, I may have not had that skill level, anyways, but it started off like it's in my first year, like 6 goals and 23 assists. So I really did think that I would be more of a two-way defenseman. Whereas when Herb came in, it was pretty clear I wasn't going to do it. But still, maybe Herb was right that was the role for me. And certainly, I was going to say selfishly, but it's not selfish. He wanted the team constructed a certain way. You saw in the movie Miracle, and certain people played certain roles, and he wanted me in that role as the defensive defenseman. Could I have done more? I don't know, but I've got no complaints. In fact, I look back at him saying to me, "Okay, this is what you're going to be," and then him following through and making sure that I got all the defensive opportunities. Kind of the deal was the unspoken deal was that if I was going to kind of sacrifice some offense that may or may not have been there. He was going to reward me to make sure that I was the defensive guy, whereas like with Barry Beck, James Patrick, they were all around defensemen, the offense, power play, penalty killing. I watched some more games with James Patrick's a good player. Actually, Kenny Albert last night asked me who I thought was the most underrated player I ever played with, and it was James Patrick. He just he could do it all. Like again, Barry Beck could do it all too, and so he was kind of the number one defenseman. Right below that was James, as far as being able to do everything on the ice. Maybe not as physical a player as Barry, but let me see. Yeah, let me see. What we got? Did you play for assistant coach named Charlie? Nope. Charlie Thiffout? Is that a real name? Or are you making that up? Thiffout? No, I didn't play for anybody like that, but Charlie Thiffout. Is that a joke? I'm sorry if I've never heard of that name, but in SBS games, was it all out all the time? Yeah, for me, I think I've told a story too. Robert Ftorek came to me in LA one time at training camp, and he says, "Tom, you've made the team, right? Like this is like my 7th or 8th year in the league." And I really looked at him and couldn't figure out what he was talking about because, again, I have learned so much. I've talked about this so much. Like looking back, growing up on the farm, it's the process of writing the book still, Susan, that it's all I ever knew. It wasn't like I was some heroic thing or something. It's just watching my father and grandfather. That's the way they lived their life. They did things all out. They did, whether it's washing the car, every part of the car got washed, loading the bales on the wagon, all that stuff. So when I play, I just didn't know any difference. I had a ball. I was blasted. I didn't feel like I was torturing myself or something. So, and then in the games, I remember Tiger Williams one time I was still with the Kings, and I was having fun in the locker room before the game, and he said to the rest of the team, he said, "Listen, don't be like him. I don't know how he does it, but he was kind of giving me a compliment that I would have fun in the locker room and then go on the ice and just play all out." So yeah, I didn't have much of a choice. I had to play like that. Yeah, that was funny. Hey, Pilon and Vakota, that was good. They're funny guys too. And like I said, we're going to make a habit of doing more where we turn the recording on right away. So even like the pre-show chats, pretty funny, especially with guys like that. Yeah, I felt bad. I look back at it. We weren't as sympathetic to him as we should. I certainly wasn't. I was more worried about my back and selfish. And he was going through his own struggles too. So let me see. Yeah. Dougie DeVito, how are you? Hope you're doing well. Your surgery and everything. Beck's offensive prowess. Yeah. I mean, but Barry, Barry had his injuries too, right? Like the shoulder injury and all that kind of stuff. But I'll tell you, like I remember him. He could just, like I said, do it all. We relied on it for everything. Toughness, shooting, puck, power play, penalty killing. Was a leader. Just fantastic. Yeah. It was a lot of pressure on him too, right? Because remember, the team had gone to the finals in '79. The next year, they trade all those guys for him. That's you go to the finals. They usually don't make a move like that. So no, I didn't play for Bergeron either. Captain Video. Captain Video. Who was the first guy ever named Captain Video? Roger Nielsen, I think, right? Roger Nielsen was he did a lot of new things as well. I don't remember how to spell his name. He was French Canadian. Oh, okay. Thief. Oh, okay. I still don't know. I never played for him. I really don't recall him either as a coach in the NHL. Doesn't mean he wasn't a good coach, but let me see. Christ, I'm not a fan of Bergeron. I told a great story with Harpo Hardy. Bergeron. Harpo Hardy. I played with him in L.A. Great guy too, man. He's got the big head too, so the both of us make fun of each other, like how big our heads were, calling each other cow head and everything. Funny guy, good player too, tough player. And he's another guy that I don't think people realized how good he was. Let me see. I believe in the Pete Rose mentality when it comes to games. I don't know what that is. Betting on them? Just kidding, Danny. Let me see. Yeah, what do we got? What do we got? Chris told a story about once Lavalette played Bergeron with the Rangers. Oh, played for Bergeron with the Rangers. Huh? Jerry, how are you doing, Jerry Grosshandler? Tom, you played with Lucien Hedegage. Oh, yes. Real offensively, he was unbelievable. The way he skated. He was one of the first guys came in. So he came in my second year in the league, and we'd gone over to Finland for training camp. And that was Herb's first training camp. So Herb had these drills where he'd move the nets up a little bit and then you skate around 3 times. You got to go around 3 times for 45 seconds. And we kind of joke around that Rayo lapped us the first time. I don't know if he quite lapped us, but he beat us bad. You know, he just was such a he was such a smart skater too, where like he knew, like we're all like idiots, like we want to cut around the corner, the net's really quick. Well, Rayo went wide, kept his strides going, long crossover strides, so he kept the speed going. We would actually slow ourselves down by cutting. So learning things like that. So we got better at it as time went, but he was still way better skater than we were. Yeah, he's better. And at the time, not everybody could do a one-timer then, like shoot the puck off the pass. Rayo did it all the time and did it with accuracy too. Like he could shoot it. So yeah, he was a big part of our team, especially on the power play, but all around. He wasn't a big physical player, but he didn't stop playing his game because, we played against Philly or whatever. He still kept playing his game. Best defense. So best defenseman. Oh man, I would say I'm a big Victor Hedman fan. As far as all around, I mean, like Fox is a fantastic player, but he's not a big physical. Not Hedman isn't a big physical player, but he can play the body. I still think there's a need. Like Trouba, I'll tell you, I think he'd be the best comparison to Barry Beck as far as being that big physical player that can play all roles. He got big shots, so he can play the power play, kills penalties, leader. So I like him a lot. He's, you'd always like to see somebody be a little bit more vocal or appearance or whatever, but he's got his own way of being a leader. Like, and I really like his way of being a leader too. Like there's been times, especially in playoffs from 2 years ago, where if somebody ran his teammate, he'd be smart. He'd wait. He wouldn't go after him right away, and then he'd get the guy lined up, and then he would smoke. And he had some big hits, like really, and that really sent the message to his team and the other team that okay, you want to do that? That's fine. I'll wait. I'll find my time to get you back. So you better keep your head up. And just hammer people. And that's so smart because you got that period of time. It's great. So somebody makes a big hit against your teammate or a dirty hit, to go over to him right away and you can go say something to him, but to go and try to physically come after right away. Everybody in the building's watching. You're going to take a penalty. You wait, you chirp them a little bit all game long if you want, and say, "We're coming to get you. We're coming to get you." So that player now he's constantly looking over his shoulder, see when is it going to happen, and then all of a sudden he comes up with a big hit. So I think that's a much better way of retaliation. And usually you don't take a penalty either because you've waited, it made a good clean but hard hit. So Bubba, the Kings, he retired. Yeah. Yeah, so we did. So I with the Kings, and he came out of retirement, and we were there. Funny guy too. Yeah, it was good to see him again when he came out, and he just wasn't the same player physically. And again, I just don't even think mentally he was the same player. That dominant guy, but great teammate. He was fun. He was really funny guy too. He had some quiet times. Like he was one of those guys who could sit in the corner and not say too much, but other times he'd get going and pretty good. Favorite restaurant on the road? Wow. That's a good question. Favorite restaurant on the road when you played? Oh man, was it good? There's a good steakhouse. What was the steakhouse in Toronto that we'd go to all the time? I can't remember what it's called. I think it was a chain of restaurants, but yeah, we go to good steakhouses, because we want to have a good meal the night before. I can't recall that. We were always going different places too. So I still say keep the 81 playoff team together for 81-82 season and bring back Don Cherry to coach. Well, that was the rumor. It was one of the rumors going on. But talking to Craig Patrick, it was always going to be Herb Brooks. And two totally different teams, right? Both successful teams. Herb changed the teams entirely. We went from being that big physical team, a guy like Hospodar, Katsopoulos, and then became the Smurfs, as they call them. But just different. It was what Herb. To his credit, Herb knew exactly what he wanted from his team, and he went and put it together with Craig. Craig deserves a ton of credit with that too. Like I think because it's as a GM, like, you want to put your stamp on the team. You're the GM. You're bringing the players in. But Craig was smart enough to say, well, first of all, to bring Herb in is a little tough because Herb's pretty demanding, right? Herb wants it his way. So Craig knew that and knew that, okay, I'll work with Herb to build the team that we want to build. So, Deebs, what's happening, brother? What are the most important leadership qualities for a team captain? Wow, man. There's a lot of different, so Mark Messier was a pretty vocal leader. And a lot of people view him as the best captain of all time in the National Hockey, at least from back in the 70s, 80s, and forward. But it really helps. You don't have to be the best player on the team, but you need to be a fairly dominant player. And it's really, I think you can't expect the coaches always to get the team ready to play. So I think it's that locker room that's really important. The team captain has control of the locker room. So when he stands up and speaks and says, okay, guys, we need to get ready for this game. Like, he can sense, okay, like tonight they're playing without McDavid. There's the danger that maybe the team says, okay, we don't have to play as hard tonight. Maybe they don't say it, but there's that feeling in the locker room, and you get to feel it in the locker room too. Are we ready or not? Like, is everybody preparing the same way that they need to prepare all the time? That's one of the keys. So people talk about in the game 7 for a playoff series, for example. Do we change the way we prepare for a game? No, you don't. You have to prepare the exact same way, because that's your preparation for your game. If you start changing the way you prepare, it's your process is all gone. Whether what time do you get to the rink, what skate do you put on first, when do you tape your stick, what do you do in warm-ups? So it's that making sure everybody's doing the thing that they need to do, and that changes. Like for me, I was kind of more chirping in the locker room all the time. Other guys were really serious. Like Glenn Hanlon, when he played, never talked at all. But so that's the key. So, okay, Laidlaw, if you're always talking in the locker room, then talk in the locker room all the time. We actually need you to be that guy, because guys are used to that locker room. And then again, it's going on the ice and understanding, okay, listen, we need a spark. We're not playing as well. I need to do something to get the team going physically, scoring a goal. So like Wayne Gretzky and Mark Messier would be different that way. Wayne Gretzky's not going to go out and run somebody, but he's going to go and make some nice offensive play to create a good scoring opportunity. So it's that it's the preparation for the team. And the tough thing is too, you have to, as a captain, you have to concentrate on your own game. You can't worry so much about everybody else, but you have to be aware of what's going on. It's a relationship with the coach, so that the coach knows, okay, you're going to get the locker room going. I don't have to be in the locker room as much. That's one of the keys too. Because again, you play 82 games, there's preseason, there's playoffs. The coach coming in and trying to do a speech before every game to get the guys going or in between periods, it just loses. You can't do it. There's just not enough material there to talk about. So it's up to the leaders. And again, it's the leaders, and it's also the assistant captain. So in my case, like with Barry Beck, he's the leader. He's the captain. I'm an assistant captain. So I have to kind of follow through with what Barry says. Like it or not, agree with it or not, doesn't matter. If Barry's saying it, the rest of the people have to follow through. That funnels down the captains, the assistant captains, to make sure the message gets, hey, this is what we're doing. Our leader has said this is what is going to happen. And if the leader goes out and does something to get the team going, it's important that the assistant captains make sure the rest of the team gets going as well. They say, like, physically say it, like, look, this is what Barry did here, guys. We need to follow suit here. We need to follow through. Let's get physical. Barry hammered that guy. We need to follow through and have another good shift right now. So it's not just the captain, but he's the most important one, but it's the assistants as well. Let me see. Susan Brooks is back in the USA. Love what Gustin has brought so far. Big has a terrific shot. Yeah, well, and I think part of it is with Wheeler, like pretty much most of his career, he's been like one of the top guys, right? And I don't think he's that here. So it's going to be an adjustment period for him. Remember, there's injuries too, so things are always going to change. He may get more of a leadership role as things go on. The good thing is they put him on a 1 year short, like it's not like $800,000 or something. So you would like to see for his own good. I think, again, it's just me speculating. I think part of the theory would be they bring him in thinking, okay, he wants to continue his career, so come in and have a good 1 year here. He's a free agent again at the end of the year and could either stay here or go someplace else. So you hope, again, it's early, but I hear you. He's a big man with skill and everything. So let me see. He wore a helmet that year with the Kings, I think, or 21 Bubba with a helmet. It's like, yeah, I know. I saw some video the other day, and I forgot that Nicky put a helmet on. I think he hurt his eye or something like that. And I saw Nicky because he was, I guess, I just so used to seeing Nicky all the time with no helmet. But yeah, Bubba put the helmet on. And that was weird too. When you're used to seeing that guy with no helmet, especially when it's a physical player, like a dominant player like that, and all of a sudden they get a helmet on, makes sense. I mean, we were idiots back then. No shields or anything. What do we got here? Jack Smith is here. Grapes was the best Fires coach. Yeah. But that was the way he wanted his team to intimidate everybody else, right? And so he played those tough guys. That's the tougher thing with some of those tougher players with some coaches. Like they would only play him 2 or 3 minutes, and then late in the game they'd want to throw him out in the ice and have him go and get in a fight. And that's the worst thing in the world. You're cold, you're out of the game. Now you got to go get in a fight. I mean, that's their job, but I think a good coach realizes he can't. It's tough to do that. You've got to play those guys at least a little, but then don't ask them to go out there and get in a fight late in the game when you haven't played them at all, right? So. Let me see here. Locker room treatment to get a guy in line. What methods were used besides kicking the butt? I think it's just a general thing that you build the locker room with a culture so that when people walk in that locker room, they know what the culture is and how they have to act. I think when you see teams like Boston, for example, with Chara and Bergeron and others that build that culture, I don't think a whole lot has to be said. If a guy walks in the locker room and sees the way those guys are leading, are working, are preparing for games. If a guy comes in and just doesn't do it, I don't know how much you can really say to him, like his personality. So again, that goes to the GM to make sure that he's bringing the right people into the locker room that'll fit into that locker room culture. If somebody's going to fight it, he may not just be the right guy for the team, especially if it's a guy that's played for a while. He's built his reputation. He is what he is. Doesn't mean he's a bad guy. Maybe it's just a different culture. I would say probably the Oilers culture back in the 80s was different than the Islanders culture. Both successful teams, but I think just a little different attitude. The rumors are that the Oilers were a little bit more party guys, and the Islanders, they had their fun certainly, but they were that more veteran team that had more. I don't know, professional is the word, but yeah, the locker room culture, that's huge. I mean, remember when St. Louis won the Cup? Was that 4 or 5 years ago now? And they brought in, God, I keep forgetting the chief. As the coach there, I keep forgetting his name all the time. I love him too. But one of the first things he said was he needs to change the locker room. And that's a character player that played a character role as a player. And why do I keep forgetting his name? I've done this before. So it's a character guy, and that's the first thing he said. He didn't talk about anything on the ice right away. They had to change the culture. They were in last place at the time. They went on to win the Cup. And again, it's not all because of that, but if you don't have the proper culture in your locker room, it is tough to win. It's just, guys all knowing, okay, here's my role. Craig Berube. Thanks, Jack. I appreciate it. Craig Berube. And what's his name? There's been a lot of coaches like that too. That's the most important. That's where the guys like the Ken Hitchcocks and the Mike Babcocks and the Keenans get themselves in trouble. And people say, well, they won. Well, they won because they were probably still pretty good coaches, but they had good teams too. All the extra stuff they did. I mean, I've talked to so many guys about it. They're all like, they can't shake their head. Like, yeah, it was pointless. It didn't do anything to help us win. All that extra garbage, all the game plan, and doing stuff like this. I think back about, I saw a video the other day, people talking about Babcock with that Marner in Toronto. It's just like, that was pointless stuff. Like you had Marner list all the characters in each player from top to bottom. First of all, to do that, what is the point? And then he went in front of the team and told everybody, this is what Marner said about you guys. It's just like, but I think so much of it is that these guys think they're the master scientists. They're going to change the way people coach by doing this kind of stuff. Like the whole thing. I think more about Babcock with the whole, getting guys' phones. And there's a story that there was one guy, I can't remember who it was, the Toronto kid. He invited this kid, maybe he got to Columbus, and he invited this young player over for lunch. He wanted to get to know him. First thing he did was grab his phone, start going through his phone and all the pictures. And then he said, okay, I'm done. You can go home now. Didn't even give him lunch. So it's I think they don't think things through about what they're really doing. They think, well, man, I'm brilliant. I'm this fantastic coach, so I'm going to do all this stuff. So, yeah. Let me see how. Phil Seals, never get big up. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. It's not like to come in and make that one speech. And again, you're playing so many games. Maybe it's different football because you're not playing as many games. But a sport like hockey, man, like to give a rah speech every game. No, it's the players have got to be prepared, be professionals. And again, it's not always. John Buckler was quoted one time as saying, if you can get the team to play their best or close to their best 75% of the time, then you've done a pretty good job. And he wasn't being critical of the team. He said, that's just the nature when you're playing so many games. Some games, it's just not there as much. Either they're tired from playing back-to-back games. Actually, I think that's a big thing that's been something that's made a bigger deal about than it really is. I think in some ways, you're playing back-to-back games like the second game, you're tired. So you should prepare harder, like be better in your preparation because you know you're tired. I mean, tired. I mean, I know it's a tough comparison, but you get guys in the military out there every day carrying around a 100 pound pack on their back. And it's 120 degrees, and they're doing it every day. We can't play. Most players play, I don't know, like an average like 20 minutes a game. We can't play 20 minutes a game. No, he's not be tired. I think that's something that's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy where the players are being told all the time how tired they're going to be in the second game. And all of a sudden now that's what they believe. So they're telling themselves it's tired. Instead of the same. Actually, I saw Tortorella do this too. Like a reporter asked him about being tired. I think he's in a playoff series. He said, no, I don't want to talk about that. Like he didn't want that to be part of the message that was being sent to the players. No, we're not talking about being tired. You're a professional athlete. You're fine. You'll play. And I think that's the better way of putting it. Instead of giving them a crutch before the game's even started, they're going to be tired. But that is my take on it. I just don't ever remember. We played lots of back-to-back games, and I just don't. I mean, you get tired sometimes during the season, but I don't think it's to blame it on. Again, in most cases, especially now, I mean, they learn how to hydrate better and eat better. They're flying around private jets, and yeah, I just don't. I don't see that. I'm not blaming the players here either. I don't see the players complaining about it. I think it's just one of those general messages that's being sent around the National Hockey League that there's all these numbers. And again, there are numbers to actually bear that out. That yes, you don't do as well statistically in that second game, but again, I think it's just more that they're being told they're going to be tired. So that's my take. Jack Smith reminds me a little Kelly Kiss. Yeah. That's right. Kelly was more skilled but tough. Trocheck might have been. Kelly was skilled, but Trocheck's got some pretty good skill too. I know you're not saying he's not skilled, but yeah, Kelly was a nasty little guy too. He was a good leader, more of a quiet leader. But he was. We called him Muttley, I think it was, because he always had that grouchy. And he really wasn't a grouchy guy. He was a good guy, but he had that grouchy look on his face all the time. So, good player. He had a good career. So he had. What was he in? He was in Detroit here. I know he finished up in San Jose, I think. So yeah, good teammate too. Like, you're talking about a good leader, like a quiet leader. That was him. Like he just showed up every game. Talk about professional. He was professional. He was prepared. Yeah, good player. So again, good test for the Rangers tonight. A good mental test. Again, being prepared, right? Because there's that worry that you say, okay, arguably the best player in the game is not playing tonight against you, so you can now you don't have to play as hard. You should think the other way. This is a great opportunity. He's not in the lineup. We the bottom line is you want to send a message. We want to play the same way, whether he's in the lineup or not. We want to play our best hockey. That's how you win, and that's how you build that character too. Is like the preparation. Game after game, people pushing each other in the locker room, making sure everybody's ready. The leaders standing up, making sure that the team's ready, and the pregame skate, and all that stuff. So that's right. Kishia was part of the Doogie deal. Yeah. Oh yes, I forgot about that. I saw what happened up there in Maine, the shooting and everything. Man, that is sad. And there's not. Again, it's very premature, but I read some articles today talking about mental illness. The guys they've been saying that he saw or heard voices or something like that. So again, that's a terrible story, but again, it's a huge, our mental health in our country we're getting much better at it. But again, this woman, Peg, fantastic person that works with Northwell Health. We were talking about last night at the events, how like Northwell Health really recognized that they need to do more. They are doing a ton of great stuff in the mental health field, but there's such a problem out there. And we're getting better at it, about people coming out and, listen, I've got a mental health issue. Again, it's like you've got a broken arm. When you go to the hospital, you get it fixed. If you've got a mental health issue, you can address it. There's medication if you have to. There's therapies. There's exercise you can do. Whatever. And again, I'm not the expert on it. Again, if people have concerns about themselves or others, there's that 988 hotline for mental health and suicide. There's a professional people there to help you. Or like I said, help other people if you're concerned. But yeah, that's a terrible story. It's a terrible example of how things can go wrong. And so many people get hurt. All right, Pat, I'm still debating. I don't know. I feel like, okay, so I'm saying how healthy we teach people to be healthy. Here we are handing out candy. It's kind of like an award, like a good thing to kids. We're teaching them, I had the wrong message. But again, it's one night a year, I know. But I don't know. Maybe I hand out cocktails like shots to the parents. Okay, come on, throw away the candy. There's got to be, I don't know. It is definitely one of those things where it's a well-established thing that we do all the time is give out candy. But it's like we're having National Hot Dog Day. We know so much more stuff about our food and how bad it affects us and our kids. We need to change our thought process and just think, well, we do it all the time, so let's just keep doing it. No. Kelly Kisser Scout Fair. I didn't know that. Huh? Cool. Let me see here. I wish the media wouldn't cover or show these shooters for hours and hours. They wanted attention. That could be part of it, Jack. But it could. I think they look back now and say there's a mental health issue with obviously, if somebody's going to do this, just randomly kill all those people. Was it 18 people got shot? Jack, I'm not saying you're wrong and they want attention, but again, I think some of them are just mentally ill. They really don't know what they're doing. It doesn't make it any better or worse. Just to me, the guns. Obviously, I'm a supporter of guns in the Second Amendment, and the guns to me are a tool, but it's the mental health issue. It's the people that are doing these kind of shootings that we really need to look at. That needs to be, to me, that needs to be where the focus is finding out why these people do what they're doing and how do you get to stop it. And maybe the answer is, it's tough. I mean, because you can't, if somebody hasn't committed a crime, you can't get them committed or whatever. If they've got a mental health issue, that's it. Sorry, folks, I didn't have the phone turned off. All right, let's shut her down here. Frank Brown gave out condoms by mistake. Oh, Frank Brown. I think I said Frank Brown over there. Gave out condoms by mistake on Halloween. Everyone, that's good. That's good. That's you calling, Anthony? No, it's not, you silly goose. All right, buddy. Good show today. Good seeing everybody. I hope you're doing well. Again, I can't stress enough. Really make an effort. Like, I think our mental health around has to be like a day-to-day thing we look at, like with other people, reaching out to others, helping other people. So let's make sure we do that. Make sure you take care of yourself too. Again, there's that 988 hotline. I'm here for people if they want to call. But again, I'm not a professional at these things. I'll be here for you. But again, that 988 hotline is professionally manned. So get some help there. So everybody have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.